Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. It's Friday. We made it again. Wow. I don't know if you guys knew this, but tomorrow is the 6th plus 6th plus 6th day of the 6th month. And this is the day that Thump chose to hold a rally in Memphis. Now we're going to get into the details of that for today's show. We're going to go into Google Earth. We're going to look into the landscape of Memphis, where we found the actual profile of Trump himself. But before we get into that, I want to make a special announcement for you guys. We're going to be doing an interview with Now You See TV. You can find them here on YouTube, NYS TV. I think they have a couple of channels, so you'll want to subscribe to both of those. And it's John Pounders and the crew. That'll be next Thursday. So mark your calendars in preparation for that. They want to discuss some of these connections that we've made that have been revealed to us by the Holy Spirit. And I like their channel because they see some of these connections too, don't they? And they're not afraid to realize that the Bible is a living, breathing Word of God, and that in these end times, God does reveal deeper hidden truths that'll help us get through until Christ's return. So that'll be a really exciting show to do. They're probably going to talk about Trump because that's pretty much some of the stuff that they've covered on their channel as well, and probably some other connections that we've made in some of our other decodes that we've done. They seem to have a solid foundation as far as the fundamentals of what it means to be a Christian. Oftentimes, you'll see some of these other channels just going too far with stuff and really going away from their Christian base, getting into New Age stuff. And these guys don't do that, as far as I can tell to this point. And they stay within that safe zone when it comes to their research. And so I think that we'll be a good fit for each other moving forward. As Christians, we have to be careful that our research does not contradict the principles of the gospel, the nature of God, or promote any kind of Gnostic ideas and beliefs that steer people away from Christ. So, one other announcement I want to make for you guys today is this beautiful German brown trout that I caught in the spot where Eli and I were fishing. I went back because I had to go back to my property, take care of a few things, and so on the way I wanted to just dovetail a trip with it and look at the markings on this fish. Now, many of you that follow this channel have seen some of the fish that we caught out of the McCollum River in California that look almost identical to these. I don't think German brown trout are native to America. I think they were stocked over the last several hundred years in creeks and streams and all over the United States. They're more of like a natural kind of fish. They're harder to catch. They're stealthier. When I caught this beauty, it was probably about 6 pounds, 20 something inches long. And this little creek here that feeds into the White River is full of these fish. You can see them in the water. They're like missiles. You can see this thing's larger than my arm. There's my forearm there. And you can see this thing is, now this thing bit me really good when I tried to lip him. That's why I'm holding a towel as I'm lipping him, because his teeth were probably about 1/8 of an inch long, and he went right into my thumb and ripped out a chunk. So I was bleeding all over the place, of course, and that attracted the mosquitoes, and I had a couple ticks crawling on me. I flicked them off. But man, what a workout hiking around in these banks. Some of these banks are like 10 foot drop off down to the water, down into 6 or 8 feet of water. And so you got to be very careful. And, when you're doing this, you got to use an extended net and things like this to get to the fish once you get him. But I caught about 3 or 4 rainbows in this nice German brown. So that was really cool. So let's get into some of this other stuff about why we're actually here today. Thanks, Jen, for joining the channel. Jen Shaylin, appreciate it. This is pretty crazy. Now, we found with our research that Horus is Apollo. It's right there. It's known. Nobody will argue with you about that. That Horus is Apollo. And so it's no surprise that Trump, who is the Apollo character. He's a Apollo personified. He's holding his next campaign rally in American Egypt, which is Memphis. And so the Holy Spirit told me to look at Memphis from the sky. Now this happened pretty quick. As soon as I pulled this up, here it is in Google Earth. You know, I was expecting to see like the Eye of Ra or something. I was like, okay, what's the Holy Spirit going to show me in terms of what's going on in Memphis? And I was kind of looking around the landscape, zooming in and out, and all of a sudden this appeared. Now I was pretty shocked, and like you guys know, it's very rare that something shocks me anymore because of all the stuff that we've seen, right? But this was a shocker, because as much as I decode Trump, there's something holding me back from believing that he has significant spiritual role outside of creating the Smack the Nation at warp speed. I think that was kind of his thing that he did. But above and beyond that, yeah, a lot of people believe he is the Antichrist. I don't know if I believe that. He could be, but that's not my personal belief in terms of what I feel like the Spirit's telling me. But I could be surprised. But what I'm going to show you next is pretty shocking. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn this overlay. Whoops, that's not the one. That's not the one I want. First of all, let's start with this. Let's zoom this out so you can see that America is Egypt. Here you see Memphis. This is an Egyptian map overlaid onto the United States. You have Memphis, you have Cairo, Illinois, Memphis, Tennessee, falling exactly where it should on the map. The Cahokia Mounds, or Monk's Mound, looks like the pyramids of Egypt. Okay, everything is almost where it should be. So I wanted to just help you to get your bearings on that. Now, if you don't know about America's Egypt, go back to the video that we did on it, and it will explain to you the details of what this is about. Let's turn off this overlay now and just focus on this thumb profile here. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to turn it on and off so you can see the profile with your own eyes. Now this is shocking, because what does this mean? Now we can also do this. We can take this and adjust the opacity of this, and then you can see it much more clear than I'm showing it to you. You can see the profile. You can even see the lips there. The nose is a little squashed in, but you see clearly the hairline. Let's flash it so you can see it. And some of you noticed you can almost make out the star. Now, let's zoom in on this. And I didn't see the star at first. Now, what you're looking at that's in red is his actual logo, okay, from his campaign. And let's zoom in and see if we can see this star a little bit more clearly, because I believe you guys are right. There is a star here. Look at, you can make out the edges there. Now that's shocking, because what it infers is that there's something going on here. There's the star. You can see it clearly. Once the logo is placed atop it, the star becomes very clear. Now, let's back this up, zoom it out, and talk a little bit more about what we believe is going on here with this profile in the landscape. Now, let's go back in here, because tickets to this event, again, occurring on the 6+6+6 day of the 6th month, which is June. So you have 6666. So you have 66 and 66, which is the number of Apollo, right? It's going to be at the Landers Center. I don't know if this is his first campaign. He may have done a few others. There's another one in Greensboro, North Carolina. I think that might be happening afterwards. But this is significant. This is going on tomorrow. And the tickets, of course, cost a fortune. Here are the different ticket prices. You can go from presidential for about $4,000, or Patriot, you can even pay more, and it goes all the way down to $9. Those are sold out. Those are satellite seats. They actually have a picture of the seats here. Let's go down here so we can find that. Now, I added up all the ticket prices. That's the first thing I did, right? Because they love their numbers, and I think it came out to $14,314, something like that. Let's see if we can find the seating chart. So it's 14,314 or something like that. I didn't really see too much significance as far as that, but here are the speakers. Of course, Thump himself, Thump Jr., Candace Owens, and Mike Pompeo. Oh, here's the stage here. So this is the stage. Now, I didn't really see any significance to this, really. It kind of looks like a necklace, I guess. Some people might argue it looks like the Eye of Ra, kind of, but I don't know if I really see that. But there's the color coding chart. If you're a Patriot, you're right up on stage pretty much with him. And you pay probably $10,000 to get that seat. Now understand, this place is probably going to be full. He's going to raise so much money for this because people do not understand that America is Egypt. They do not understand that the right-left paradigm is what controls us. That as soon as you choose a man to rule over you, you've already chosen wrong. Doesn't matter right or left. Nothing's really improved in America. They could make drastic changes that could really help America really be great. But instead, we're dealing with the right-left paradigm. And I hear people talking about it. It's not just us. A lot of people complain. People that aren't even awake to the truth complain about this. That there is only a two-party system. Well, who's going to fix it? Who's going to fix it? So, what is the significance of this? Well, Apollo brings the disease and he brings the cure. We firmly established that. That's in the ancient writings, that's what he does. And since Trump has personified himself with Apollo through his 66th floor penthouse and the decorations and many other things that we've uncovered, then he must be the bringer of disease and the bringer of the cure. So he's returning to Egypt. And this is significant because this is his coronation ritual. Look, you guys, the news is already starting to bag Biden. He's already played his role. He basically created the counterbalance to reignite the right because everyone was so upset that the election was stolen. They were so upset about that. Now they are going to hands down bring this man back into office, bring Trump back into office just to get back at the left. And if you're in the right-left paradigm, this is what you're going to do. And so they've got you. If that's your thinking, if that is how you think, that you actually think that, the election was stolen in the way that they said, of course it was stolen, right? We know that. But it was all a game, the right and left working together to bring him back in, bring Thump back in, because he has a lot of power and he can get things done. He can put the right to sleep and get things done. And that's why they want him back in power. Because think about it, the right is the problem child. They've already got the left, but they have to figure out a way to get the right to do what they want us to do to go along with the agenda, right? So they have a man that appears to be, he's on the right, but really he's not. He's really good at pretending to oppose the left, but really his actions are far different. Now, let's get into this Halloween catch. One of you guys sent this to me. Thump holding the serpentine pharaonic staff. Now, of course, this is all scripted. This was during Halloween. Based on everything that we've uncovered in the past, they probably had these children dress up this way and carry the staff so that he could grab it out of their hands and show everybody that he is the new American Pharaoh. Now, let's go back into this because I want to check in with you guys first, and then we're going to follow up on the show we did the other day about American Egypt. because we left some stuff out, and I want to make sure we get this all done correctly. These are the Cahokia mounds. Some people call them Monk's Mound. I think Monk's Mound is the most notable of these mounds at the Cahokia mounds. And these things are massive, as you can see here. Here's a person for reference, standing, I think, right here. I think that's a person. There's a sign. So as you can see, this is a small pyramid. And there's something about this, because this is located almost exactly where it should be in Google Earth. We'll zoom this out. Remember, Little Egypt. Let's see, where are we? Oh, okay. It's a Gulf. All right. So you've got Memphis, you've got Cairo, you've got the Nile Delta, and you have Monk's Mound here. Now, typically, it would be here in Giza, right? Which would be where the pyramids are supposed to be. So it's not exact, but it's close. Monk's Mound is right up here. Let's zoom in on these. Monk's Mound. We'll turn this overlay off so you guys can see them clearly. Now, there we go. All right, let's go into the Cahokia Mounds, Monk's Mound. Here they are. So, look at this. Here's Monk's Mound here. Let's zoom it up. Now, there are many mounds, but Monk's Mound is the biggest. Here's the stairway that you just saw. And this is a remnant pyramid. Why do you think that's here? Because America is Egypt. Let's look around this landscape here, because this whole site has these mounds. Here's another mound there, 2 in a row here. Cahokia mounds. It looks like there's a 4th here. Now, some of you have been to these sites. You've seen these places. Now, this is very close to, I think this is the Mississippi River. So, no doubt, over time, there's been probably some erosion. So these structures could have been much more massive, couldn't they? And so the Mississippi becomes the Nile River, as I showed you in this wide angle view. So here's the Mississippi here. Actually, no, that's the, I think that's the Missouri River. Sorry about that. And that feeds into the Mississippi, which is down here. And I think this is the Ohio River. So, weird times we're living in, right? America is Egypt. Now, there's a few other things that I missed. There's actually a pyramid in Memphis. Let's go back to Memphis. And check this out. There's also a Ramses statue close by. Now, the Ramses statue is at the nose of where this Trump profile is. Let's zoom it out so you can see that again, because it went in kind of quick. Here's his nose. There's the profile there. And then we zoom in, and you can see Ramses statue. I don't know the history behind this statue, but something's going on. Let's go down to the street view here. Check out this statue. There it is. That's a pretty large statue. Now this whole, and it says Ramses right down there in case you didn't see that part. This whole area is full of obvious references to Egypt. Now people say, oh, of course, Casey, it has to be because it's Memphis. You know, of course, it's named after Egypt. Why wouldn't it have these connections? Well, what people don't understand, it's not just Memphis. It's the entire central part of America that is channeling this Egyptian spirit. In fact, it's all of America. Over and over, repeating these themes. Now, let's go to the pyramid of Memphis, because there's a couple other things that we missed in this as well. All right, so here's the pyramid. And again, as we mentioned on yesterday or day before yesterday's show, the pyramid actually falls right where the back of the brain is on Thump's profile. Here it is right here. Here's the pyramid. It's got the cap on it. And here's the Bass Pro Shops logo. I think Bass Pro Shops is inside of this building. But look at this pyramid. Now, there's something peculiar about this pyramid. I looked it up because I wanted to see if there were any significance to this pyramid in terms of its size, right? So I went in here and I started digging around, of course. And here is the Memphis pyramid. And lo and behold, it's 321 feet tall, compared to the original Great Pyramid, which is 481 feet tall. So I did the math on that, and guess what? This Memphis pyramid is 66% of the Great Pyramid. And there's your Apollo number again. And of course, it had to reappear again, right? Because we're right on track in terms of what all this means. 66% of the size of the real pyramid. Now, I wasn't expecting it to be that large, but apparently it is. So imagine this being another 33% bigger, and you have the actual size of the Great Pyramid of Egypt. Wow. Now, what else do we have here? Zoom this out, see if we see anything else going on here. So what is the significance of it being at the back of the brain? Well, that symbolizes some kind of control. So even though he's a pharaoh, he's under some kind of demonic possession, some kind of control. Some people believe that his brain is being controlled. I don't know if I believe that, but you know, it's just the same with demonic possession. We talked about pharaohs being reanimated. We talked about that they basically create some kind of golem and then possess it with a spirit. And this is what they're trying to do with all of us, with humanity. They're trying to make us possessible vessels. That's what they're trying to do. Let's take another look at this. It's unbelievable. There you see the star. Was not expecting to see that star. Look at that. Look down here. Like, you can actually see that the trees in the street. Let's move this here. Okay, see this right here? This forms an edge. You can see the edge right there. Orange mound. Ooh, orange mound. Oh, okay. See? Now let's zoom this. So you can see the edge of the star there. Now, there's a negative term that people try to use to describe people like us who find things in the spiritual realm that are as plain as day. It doesn't matter how exact it is. The negative term is called pareidolia. And what that is it's almost like saying conspiracy theorist. It's a negative term to talk you out of believing in it, to talk you out of believing what your eyes are showing you, to talk you out of understanding the spiritual realm. Even as exact as this profile is, there will be 20% of people who will say, you're crazy. How you really think there's a profile of Thump? That's an accident. Totally random. And they'll say, I was looking for it, rather than seeing it for what it is, which is the modern Pharaoh, American Egypt, There will be people who will even deny all these Egyptian references. Look at this. There's even a place called Egypt here. Well, obviously, because it's next to Memphis, right? But there's actually a place called Egypt out here, some kind of subdivision. Raleigh Egypt High School. In this whole area of Little Egypt, which is right between where the rivers converge up here, all this area is called Little Egypt. Look, you can almost see like like the Nile Delta right here before your eyes. Hey, see how green it is right there? Right in between the two rivers. So, interesting nonetheless. Let me see if I have anything else for you guys in the tabs here. Here's the height that I used to get to the 66%. 481 feet high. And today it stands 449 feet, having lost 9.5 meters from the top. So that was the height without the capstone. Obviously, here's some comparison for that as well. Now, there's even more to this because some people are still unconvinced. The 66 is significant. Why? Because Ramses the Great, remember the Ramses statue was in Memphis. Ramses had a 66-year reign. So this number 66 is significant to ancient Egypt. There was actually an incident as well where 66 people died on Egypt Air back in 2016. 66 people died in the 2016 plane crash. They blamed it on teeterism, of course, but it makes you wonder. 66. It's on May 19th. Let's look that up. Okay. 139th day of the year. Now, this goes one step further. This is going to blow your mind. This is how you say the number 66 in Egyptian. And it sounds like Satan, we Satan. Now I'm going to play this. This is just Egyptian language. And they're saying the number 66. Let's watch this here.
66 66 66.
Now, the interesting thing is that these numbers, this number 6 and 6, looks like a 77 when you write it out in Egyptian. This is the actual character for the number 6, and it looks like a 7. So now we know what this really is, because 77 is also Thump's number, as well as 88. So he's the president of double numbers. We have 66, 77, and 88. Wow. Now, here is Set. This deity, Set's child, is Maga. As you can see here, offsprings are Anubis, Wepelwet, Serket, Sobek, and Maga. Obviously, that's his signature saying, making America great again, right? So he's definitely trying to channel something deeper than they're admitting to. So that's the data that I have on that. Let's go into the chat for a little bit. Appreciate you guys coming out today. There's probably much more to American Egypt than meets the eye. I mean, we do have an obelisk as our memorial and so many other things. But, most of the information that I just presented to you came from you guys. So I'm just presenting it back so everyone can hear the same information. All right. Now, the truth of the matter is that all these presidents think that they're pharaohs. That's the truth of the matter. It's not just him. We covered at length Bomama and his pharaonic connections. He was Wepwawet, the son of Set. Why? Well, remember, he signed the beam, which just so happened to be on Trump's birthday. when he signed that beam of the center of trade, he signed it, we shall build back better, we shall build back stronger, we shall build back something else. Anyway, it was WWW, which was Wep Wa Wet. WWW, the dog god, which basically looks like Anubis. Wep Wa Wet was the precursor to Anubis. He rode on a solar boat. We actually compared Obama's signature and did an overlay showing you that his signature looked like the solar boat. Wep Wa Wet on the solar boat. So, looks like we need to time somebody out. I don't like people insulting my subscribers. We'll just go time out. Don't call people names. We're not in third grade here. Come on. All right, so let's take a look at that. So this is Wep Wa Wet. Now we did a whole show on this, but it's been a long time. He's got the head of a dog, and he predates most of the pharaohs, but he is the child of Set. And he rides on a solar boat. Where did that image go? There's an ancient image of him riding on his solar boat. Let's look that up. Used to be in the Wikipedia page, but let's see if we can find it. Now, the ancient drawing looks exactly like Obama's signature. I was like shocked. And as we begin to uncover these things, they start erasing them from history, don't they? You guys remember the solar boat and remember us overlaying it. Let's keep looking. That wasn't it. It kind of looked like this, but there was this huge wraparound. Let's see if we can find it. Anyway, I may need to re-upload that video for you guys because it really was crazy. So we'll work on that for you guys another time. So there you go. Let's go back in the chat. Yes, Satan has many avatars. Thanks. That's a great point. You know, sometimes we, in the moment, we're focusing on one particular person and people think we're picking on. No, he is legion. He's got all kinds of forms. Every single one of these presidents is one form of him, at least in recent history. I can't say that all presidents were like that, but in recent history, looking at the actions of these presidents, you can clearly see the agenda unfolding. Now, we did a really powerful video comparing all the presidents, right and left, showing the progression of the agenda, going back all the way to Bush with the Patriot Act. That was the first step, the first stage in recent history of an agenda. That act was actually used during the suspension of your rights and freedoms during the spam-demic. But it wasn't just Bush, because after that came Obama. What did he do? He digitized your medical health records. Big push through. He paid doctors to basically convert their charts into electronic medical records. He also pushed through national health care so that the government has access to your medical records. And then both of those components were then used by Thump during the spam-demic. The evidence is solid. So there you have three presidents, right and left, working together for an agenda to suspend your medical freedoms and to invade your medical privacy. So it's very important to understand that right and left work together. Remember Upper and Lower Egypt? They probably pretended to oppose each other, but really they were working together to enslave God's people. Yes, they're all related to the bloodlines, Warrior for Truth. Vessels for Satan himself? Absolutely. So I don't get hung up on any one president, but any president, look, Bo Jiven is just a puppet. He's like a placeholder. He really isn't doing anything significant other than the Stu Crane, which doesn't really directly affect us here. He is spending a bunch of money for them, which is affecting us, but to them, money is funny money. Doesn't really have any value, so they spend it at will. He's a placeholder for Thump to come back, and they're already setting this thing up for Thump to come back. I mean, unless they pull a rabbit out of a hat, they're not even trying to develop any other presidents. The left is actually trying to go with Bo Jiven. You would think that someone else would come forward, they would realize how much of a failure he is, and that they would put someone else forward to start campaigning. But instead, they're going to still hang their hat on Bo Jiven. He's sure to lose, but that's the way they want it. They want Thump back in power, because then they can finish this thing off. There will be no opposition from the right. They'll just be so happy that he's in power and that Biden lost and they got their revenge, right? That they'll let Thump do whatever he wants. And that's the plan. And that's where we all need to look out. We thought it was bad with warp speed. It's going to be triple bad for us Christians. Triple bad. So, those are my thoughts on all of that. The American Pharaoh. Yesterday, we had a great show. I caught that fish actually yesterday. I was playing hooky, guys, because I had that stream scheduled. But I did have to get to my property to take care of some things. But I dovetailed some fishing in the morning with it. But yesterday's show, we did a redecode on the series Helix. And that 2-season series really laid it all out, didn't it? Really showed us their entire plan. They were explaining to us in high detail back in 2014 when the series came out. They were telling us exactly what they were going to do. It was about mixing of the DNA through the disease and cure. It was very, very specific. We even found the word Vidco inside of a tree, and I outlined it to show you inside the series because they were tree worshipers. They're actually tree killers. They would cut the tree down in this ritual to mock Christ, basically. It was a Christ-mocking ritual. And so they thinned the herd by cutting down the trees, and then they put them in the temple of Sybil. So for those of you that were able to make it to yesterday's show, you were blessed to see that, because that was one of our most powerful decodes. And if you haven't seen it yet, go take a look at that, because it was pretty powerful. All right. I want to give a special thank you to all the supporters of the channel. You guys keep things going, even when we come under threat. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Redeemed by Yah. And any of the new channel supporters. That's just for people who can, or who are able to. Otherwise, I don't put any pressure on anyone to do that. So I really appreciate you guys. Appreciate all the other folks too, through the fundraiser, that have signed up to give monthly. That really helps the channel as well. And you do it in silence, because you don't even get a badge here on the channel. So I really, really appreciate you guys as well. You guys are the true supporters of this channel. And we will continue on no matter what, because of that help. So, what else do we have here? Now, I'm still, looking for this head wound thing. Now, some people thought it was when he caught Vidco, when Thump caught Vidco, that could have been the head wound and the recovery after 3 days. But I think there might be some other kind of manifestation of that biblical prophecy, if in fact he is the Antichrist, because that would be the qualifier for that, right? So we'll be on the lookout for that as well. I mean, what if Bo Jiven only makes it to 3 years in his presidency, and then there's some kind of special election and they just put Thump back in? Well, that would be like the 3-year head wound, 3-day head wound, right? And the recovery. So I don't know. Now, I have my personal beliefs about Thump. I believe he was the one who called fire down from heaven. and that's why the towers fell. And I think he used some kind of Tesla technology, some kind of oscillator to disassociate the particles and dustify them. And I believe that's what we saw in Blind 11, and he was the secret force behind it all. Now, I don't know that, but again, I look into the spiritual and I see things and I see symbolism. There's a lot of symbolism. He actually was going to buy the towers at one point when he was 33 years old. Many of you will remember that interview he did. And then he also bought a building that had twin figures on it that he demolished. He demolished the twin figures. They were like Art Deco figures. You guys will remember that video we did. And he demolished that building. It's called the Bonner Tell building, if my memory serves me correctly. Bonnet Tell building. And so he demolished that and dustified those twins. So there's a lot of spiritual stuff going on. A lot of spiritual stuff going on. So what else do we have? Lake Palm, Deterra, Missouri. I'm not sure how far I am from that. Bauru. Okay. Bomama's head wound is happening right now, and it's Biden. Says under fire. Ballistic science. The red and blue tie. Okay. Now, yesterday's show, apparently, YouTube deleted the chat. They just deleted it. I didn't even get to see the chat because I was gone, and that bummed me out. So I don't know what happened with that, why that happened, but that's interesting. Do you guys remember what was going on in the chat yesterday? I'll give you a chance to respond here. And every once in a while they've only done that a handful of times, but usually it's because whatever's being said in the chat, YouTube doesn't like. This is why we also have to be careful. And this is why also I have to, people get mad at me because I censor, but I have to. Am I just going to let trolls come in and destroy our channel, destroy our chats, and make it hard for everybody else and run people off? I've had people approach me before when problem people have come into the channel or the chat, and they're like, I'm unsubscribing, I'm sorry, but it's toxic. So look out for the people who are mad because they feel like we're censoring, okay? Because they're really actually, their secret agenda is to try to get the channel sabotaged and taken down. We have to protect this channel, you guys, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to do that. And so I set a few simple ground rules, and as you can see, 99% of you follow the rules and everything's just fine. You don't feel censored in any way. So, but there are some of those people, and I believe they're from the enemy, that sit here and criticize when we have to time someone out or tell someone not to overrun the chat with subjects that we're not even talking about, which that's just common courtesy, right? You go to someone's house and they start taking over the conversation. I gave an example the other day. I was trying to explain to people what I was meaning when I was talking about the flat earth thing. And there's basically a phenomenon that's happening on YouTube where YouTube has really allowed FE to take control, and basically those channels have gotten super huge. And there's a reason for that, because it's disruptive. Now, I personally believe that the earth is probably pretty flat. That's what I personally believe. But I don't want that overtaking every single chat, every single show. And you get these people that come in, and the first thing they want to talk about, even though we're not even talking anything about that, is FE. And then all of a sudden you get people arguing about it, and no one's even listening to the show. So our channel is our living room, is the way I look at it. It's our home. And when someone comes into your home and they start disrupting your home, you show them the door. Now, we have a particular, I have a lot of patience. I'm slow to anger. Much more slower to anger than I would be if someone came into my home doing the same thing. So I do give people quite a bit of leeway, quite a bit of grace when it comes to how they behave in the chat. I give them several chances. Okay? I give them the benefit of the doubt. A lot of channels don't do that. And so that's what's going on here. When you talk about censorship, censorship connotates power. Okay. I don't have any power. Obviously, our channel has only been seen by about 1% of the entire world. That's not power. I don't have any power over anybody. Censorship connotates power. It's those in power stopping you from hearing a certain message, which could affect your decision about where you want the country to go. That's what censorship is. Censorship is not a guy on a channel that only is reaching 1% of the world trying to keep his head above water so that his channel doesn't get sabotaged by provocateurs. And if you don't think there are provocateurs, understand that there really are. That the government loves to point the finger at channels like me for censoring, and then they send in their troll army to criticize and point the finger, say, look, he's doing it too. Why doesn't he talk about this? Why doesn't he talk about that? You know, and so this is what's going on. I just wanted to give a little bit of explanation. I know I don't have to explain to most of you, but there were some people that got upset at me because I wasn't allowing FE talk in the chat. And I'm like, you're not understanding the context. I am actually a believer of that. But it's getting ridiculous now. It's like these people are worshiping the FE. They talk about it more than they do God. And that's all they talk about. And they think that if you're not talking about that, then you're not talking about anything significant. That's worship. That's false worship. There's a problem with that. And if you disagree with me, I'm sorry. But that is extreme. So those are my thoughts on that. I just wanted to set the record straight about that. All right, back in the chat. Thanks, Honeybee. Thanks, Uni. Bill. Yes, Bill. You're correct. But both sides are. They both are. Okay, think of it this way. What just happened during the spam-demic? Now, some people say, oh, Thump was forced to do that because he was told to do it. There was a lot of pressure on him now how to handle this spam-demic. Well, at the end of the day, the buck stops with him. What did he do? He made fascist moves, didn't he? Shut down all the small businesses. He allowed that to happen. Now people say, oh, the states did it. Well, you're the president. You got to do something. Okay? He enriched the rich companies, the very same rich companies and corporations that he was invested in. Got all the business. Then he made a smack the nation, which he knew was going to be forced at some point. He knew that. So fascism goes both ways. It's all the way across the top. Yes, the left is worse. They don't hold our values. But at the end of the day, that's what's going on. If you want to get down to the bottom of all this. All right. I'm almost more scared of the right because they have everyone's guard down. And then we lose the fire that we had. You guys will remember even the trails in the sky. They had people convinced that Thump had taken over those planes and was now spraying good stuff on us. He had neutralized it. I mean, it was crazy what people would believe. And they just believed that he had all their best interests at heart, and really nothing changed. Nothing really changed. Yeah, the economy did okay for a while, but I don't invest in this economy. This economy is of the enemy. It's like buying, I don't know. It's like investing in Egypt. So, all right, Kelly says she's going to unsubscribe. Okay. Well, I don't know what we said that makes you want to do that, but I think we're all on the same page here. So, what else do we have here? Yeah, do you guys, Darcy remembers. They were spraying good stuff. And there was something else too. What was it? There was something else they were trying to say that he was doing that was good now instead of the way it was before. I can't remember. Yes, they have been destroying America. But, as I just explained, so was Thump. Red flag laws. Do you know about that? Do you have a pop stick? Well, if your ex or your neighbor wants you to, doesn't like you or is afraid because you walked outside and was cleaning your pop stick on your porch and they happen to walk by and got triggered, they can anonymously go to the local courthouse. You won't even know who ratted you out and say that they believe that you're a threat because they saw you on Facebook in a certain group that you joined. And if it had any of the words proud in it and boys, guess what? Now they come to your house under dark of night, no knock warrant, and confiscate your pop stick and call you an extremist. Well, that Thump is the one who endorsed that. So, there you go. And I could go on and on. We're not here to beat up on him, but obviously we have some Thump supporters in the chat, so I've got to explain these things again for people that don't know. Jive, Gee Whiz, and Beyond, he signed while we were on lockdown. Didn't he? What was that about? Well, that's the prison, the electronic prison. That's real-time surveillance. National ID, he endorsed that as well. More federalizing your ID. So when you go in to get a driver's license, yes, you have a choice, right? Quote unquote choice. But the cameras that they use to take your picture is the same camera that they used for the high resolution images that now can be put into the camera database and they can find you on the street. Facial recognition. So don't be fooled. Even though you don't get a real ID, your high resolution facial image is still in the database. And you're being monitored by the federal government. And I could just talk all day about this stuff, but some people are still asleep. Now, of course, Bo Jivin is worse, but look at what Bo Jivin's doing. I mean, he's just continuing the same agenda. He's being a Democrat. That's just what Democrats do. Okay? They're all puppets. And the people that come to this channel realize that. But the right has been put to sleep by Trump. Why? Because he's so charismatic. And he goes at the left and he digs. He throws these digs and people love it. They're like, ha ha, he's making fun of the Democrats again. That's great. What a great one-liner. And they get hung up in that and they're not even looking what his other hand's doing. They're not even looking at what the Janus is doing, the two-faced Janus, beneath the surface. He actually was pushing for pop stick control as well at one point. Remember that? He was like, we have to take their guns. So, all of you guys know this, but sometimes I have to remind people because they get put back to sleep with the charisma. Okay. Yes, he signed Jive G into existence, and he said it's Jive G and beyond. So it was really Jive G and 6G. All right. Wow, we've got some folks in the chat today, don't we? That's all right. Hopefully you're hearing the words I'm saying and understand this isn't personal. It's both sides. You know, we had an entire black book of names, hundreds, maybe even thousands of names, and only 2 people went to jail. Where was the investigation? Well, the problem with that is that Thump's name was also in the list. So, of course, he didn't want to dig up a hornet's nest, did he? So, another example. Yeah, we had these stories floated that all these local, low-level people were picked up for harming children, right? But none of them were at the topper echelons of the elite, which is really what needs to be taken out. They're the ones doing the traffic at very high levels, at very high numbers. They're importing people from other countries. All of that's happening right beneath the surface. And now they're emboldened more than ever because only 2 of them went to jail. And we don't even know if they really did go to jail. Okay? We don't have any real pictures of them. Egg stain and grease well. There are no real pictures. We didn't see any real pictures of either of them. So did they really go to jail? Maybe the lady that they saw at the In-N-Out Burger was a lookalike that they wanted to see if people thought she really looked like her, and then they could use that person instead of the real person. Who knows? But they're not showing us anything. This is the highest levels of traffic ever in the United States. Flying them on planes with a suicide door so you could push people out at high elevations. You just push them right out into the ocean, gone forever, eaten by sharks. No DNA, no trail, nothing. So that's what's going on with that. What else? Yes. Yep, a lot going on here today, huh, Mac TV? Trying to be more patient with people, because at the end of the day, they feel like the way they do for a reason. Okay, because they've been programmed, because they've been put to sleep, because they joined a group or a club, because they joined a letter that shall not be named, and they've been tricked. Okay, so you have to try to be patient with people like that and see if you can just keep explaining to them all these things and ask them to address those issues. What do you think about the things I just said? We can talk about that and kind of stick to the facts. And that might help people begin to wake up. Now, there will always be the crowd that says, I will always choose the lesser of two evils. I used to be that person. And then after a while, you get tired of the lesser evil, because you realize that the lesser evil is probably not have your best interests at heart. All they care about is money and power, maintaining their power. All they care about is making a bunch of money. They don't really care about the people down here. They claim to. They talk a lot about their right-leaning values, but at the end of the day, what do they really have right-leaning values? Not really. Okay. Now, I believe this whole, Roe v. Wade thing is to keep the right on the string, to continue to just drop little pellets of hope for the right, to continue to basically gaslight the re-election of Trump. Because people will say, oh, he put those Supreme Court justices in, and that's why they're going to overturn it. But I think when we finally get down to the bottom of it and their final decision, I don't think that they're going to overturn it. They're just talking about it to keep people on the stringer, because that's what everyone's talking about right now, right? Oh, see, it's because of Trump. We're going to finally save some babies. So this is how people think. And this is just keeps him going. Now think about this. If the left really hated Trump, think back, you guys. Think back a few weeks after the election. It looked like curtains for him, didn't it? Oh, he was wiped off social media. They said, we'll never cover him again. Remember, you have to think through the timeline. You have to put yourself in the moment after the election, after he lost. He wasn't being covered. He was wiped off all social media. If they really wanted to do away with him, wouldn't the mainstream media just stop talking about him? But as you can see, they can't stop talking about him. Why do you think that is? Because they want him back. You have to search your feelings and think about the past, present, and future. They could easily just wipe this guy off, couldn't they? Just by stopping talking about him. Remember back then they said he was losing all his contracts. He's going to be bankrupt before we know it. It's over for him. He's probably going to lose everything. He's going to be in the streets in an alley somewhere with no clothes. That was the sentiment after the election. Remember? Well, now look at him. He's richer than ever. I mean, how dumb are we for the people that still think all this is real? And, sometimes I got to check myself, because I'm like, oh man, because look, it's really easy to do the popular thing on YouTube. Someone was telling me, why don't you cover genders and how all these people are transformers? You know how easy it would be for me to just start talking about that all the time? I'd probably double my subscribership. But I don't do that just because it's popular. Same way I don't, give Trump the thumbs up and green light just because it's popular. I stick to the values and the things that we've learned and what's been revealed to me by the Holy Spirit. Even if it costs us subscribers, even if it costs us popularity, I don't care, because who am I? What kind of integrity do I have if I'm just giving in to the next trend? Now, there are YouTube channels that do that. They give into the trends. They do what's popular because it's popular. Okay. So that's what's going on with that. All right. I know you're sick of hearing about him, but guess what? He's going to get reelected. So you better hunker down, Rebecca, because it's coming. I mean, there's really not really much else to talk about other than our decodes and between the headlines, because that's where it's going to hit the fan. Once he comes back and the right is completely put to sleep, we will have no defense at that point. It will just be the truth community that will be the true right. We will be the last one standing, and our numbers are falling daily. I see them right here on our channel. The numbers are falling daily. We're losing people because they're all getting back into thump again, and it's happening all over again. And they get mad because we criticize him. They don't understand that we criticize Obama and Bo Driving as well. They don't hear that part. They just hear us saying negative things about him. And so our group is very, very small. We're dwindling down to not too many people left. Now, there are other truth channels talking about other things, but at the end of the day, what really matters is look what we just went through with VidCo 19. Look how our lives got turned upside down. And that's all that mattered, wasn't it? Was fighting against the tide with that, trying to oppose it and trying to resist it. You see? And that was a scary time because it felt like the world was falling apart, didn't it? A lot of pain on the personal level based on decisions and actions of our government, wasn't there? Many of you lost jobs. You were forced to take a smack the nation. I never want to go back to that. But guess what? We will go back to that if we keep giving into the right-left paradigm. It's just a matter of time. So we have to talk about the people in power. We have to call them out. And I'll never stop. And hopefully this gives people hope to know that people know the game. We know what they're doing. But not enough people know. It's just the people on this channel. It's just, and sometimes it feels like you're swimming against the tide. I understand that. But what other choice do we have, you guys? What other choice do we have? Every person that goes into those voting booths and votes for these people is just continuing the pain. And until we all stand up and realize, you know what, until the majority of right-leaning people stand up and say, we're not voting because you guys are all the same. We're writing Jesus Christ into the ballot. That's when we've done something. And until then, we have to keep trying. I don't know what else to tell you guys. I know some of you guys are tired. You're doing all you can, but I try to give you the verbal tools to explain to people what's going on so that you're not getting into battles with people, but you can drop little seeds of truth in a nice way. You can ask questions. You guys, I do it. I was just talking to the landlady here the other day. She's like, well, what kind of blog do you have? I go, well, I didn't tell her the name of it because I don't, want it to get too personal. I don't want her to come on here and then get offended and all of a sudden I'm in a weird situation. But I said, well, this is what I said to her. I said, I just, after the years that I've been on this planet, I've just been disappointed by both sides. Right and left. I talk about some politics, but mostly it's about seeing how we've been programmed by the media and entertainment to follow a certain path, and it all seems orchestrated. And then I just stopped right there. She kind of looked at me. She goes, you know what? You're kind of right. She goes, I went in to vote the other day, and they only gave me two choices. It's a two-party system. And I go, right? She's like, yeah, right. She goes, all I want is for the people in power not to force their beliefs on me. And I said, you know what? That's a great rule. I go, why does the government, both right and left, try to force certain things on us? And then the light bulb went on. So I try to give you guys tools and solutions on how to talk to other people about some of this stuff. They might not be ready to watch an Enter the Stars decode, but at least you have the tools to begin to start some of these conversations with people, to make them think twice, to counter the lesser of two evils argument, for instance. You say, where has the lesser of two evils gotten us in the past 3 decades? Really hasn't gotten us far, has it? Or you can look at hindsight of how the spamdemic was handled. And you can say, hey, do you know someone that had a small business that got shut down? Why did the bigger corporations get to stay open? How did they get so much richer? And all of us had to shut down. Just little things like that. You can drop seeds of truth to people without going full on, condemn the beast in the first sentence or the first conversation. So those are just some thoughts, you guys. Just some thoughts. Okay. And when people say, oh, look at how evil Bo Jiven is, say, yeah, he is evil. They're all evil. You can disarm people by not choosing a side. That's the point. You simply just explain to them, look, both sides are compromised. And that's how you get through to people. You can even tell them how you're disappointed. I remember having discussions with people telling them that, I used to be diehard right-leaning voter. I couldn't wait to get my ballot. I was a Bush supporter because I really truly believed at that time in my life that 19 people with box cutters did what they did on the 19th story on Flight 19. I actually really believed that on a building that had 19 tridents on the side of it. I actually really believed that. And basically, when Obama got elected, I had a breakdown. Why? Because I had been programmed Rush Limbaugh every single day on my drives to work. And I was so angry. I was like, how could people want him? How could people want that guy? He doesn't want to finish the work we started in Iraq. And all these things. And he wants national health care. There's no way we're going to have national health care. There's no way. And I was upset for like a year, 2 years, just angry, walking around angry. Then I remember even my own family mad at me because I voted for Bush. And so it created all this division. And then the years started going by, the Bo Mama years. And what happened? He dropped more missiles than Bush before him. He outperformed him with the drones. And he stayed there and he did more. And the excuse was, oh, I have to finish what he started, right? It's always the right-left paradigm. I have to do this because they did that. And nothing ever gets solved. And yes, he passed national health care, but look, we still have it. Nothing changed. Just because Thump was in office, he didn't undo that. So that's when I began to wake up. I'm like, these people are all the same. Obama acted exactly like Bush would have acted if he was reelected. Now you're starting to wake up. And this is how you get through to people. And they try to talk about all the nuances. They're like, oh, what about this? What about that? At the end of the day, what directly affects you and me? All those thousands of young men and women that joined and became sacrifices for the military through both presidencies. That's real in your neighborhood stuff. And everybody knows people who have been there. Everybody. Not all the other stuff. Not that you had to pay an extra $1 for gas here or there. I mean, now it's pretty much out of control, but that was all because of all the stimulus checks we sent out. Anytime you spend $6 trillion, it's going to mess up the dollar and inflate everything. Anytime you make everybody stay home and not drive their cars and use gas, and then all of a sudden they all go back into the streets and the demand and they get back in their cars and the demand goes through the roof because everyone just wants to get out. Now all of a sudden the prices go up. It's simple economics if you think about it. Everything you're hearing in the mainstream media is all smoke and mirrors. The reason why our gas prices are so high is because we gave away $6 trillion to people. And we locked them in their homes. And then when we let them all out, the demand skyrocketed. It probably doubled from before because people are like, wow, we can finally get out. We can finally go on a trip. We can finally do this. We can finally do that. Supply and demand. It's both of their faults. It's Bo Driven's fault and it's Stump's fault. Both of them sent out stimulus checks. It's all there because they're the same at the top. They do what they want to do. So that's what's going on with that, you guys. Yes, our country has killed any more people on Earth. Yes. Yes, billions going to it just keeps going on and on, doesn't it? Why are we spending all that money over there? Why isn't anyone saying anything? Why are most people deceived about that? Just keep giving away money, and guess who gets to pay for it? Us, because our dollar gets weakened more and more and more. Prices of things go up higher and higher. It's all orchestrated by design. So, Egypt, Babylon, probably very similar, very close. All right, you guys, it's Friday. I love you guys, and I hope you have a great weekend. And I think I have some videos uploading on the backup channel. So we'll see you guys for those. Love each and every one of you. Have a great day, everybody. Take care and be safe.